Christian, you know, I think everybody would expect that your organization will obviously be concerned about the future of Roe, but it's not just limited to reproductive rights for women. There's a lot that concerns you, including the future of the Affordable Care Act, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, Richard. When we think about what's at stake, we have to think about how it affects not only reproductive rights, but actually healthcare and all. We know this SCOTUS nomination and the person they have in place is not only going to side with attacking reproductive rights, but also attacking Affordable Care Act and the healthcare of millions of Americans who are at risk of losing healthcare in general. And that would not just only affect women, but affect men, children, and everyone in general.
You know, Amy Coney Barrett has said that it's not the court's job to solve every problem or right every wrong. When you hear that, what do you think she's saying between the lines?
Well, I think she's saying it very clearly, not even between the lines. I think she's clearly saying that she's not for the people. She's saying that essentially that it's not the court's job to represent the people, but when it actually is there is the court's job to be for the people. We are electing Supreme Court justices to come in place to represent the people as a whole and for the country. So we are expecting those Supreme Court justices to come in and represent the American people, to represent our issues. And so we can't have someone that's going to come in and not side equally and be representation of a fair court and a balanced court. And when she says statements like that, it makes me believe that she's not going to come in and be fair. And she's clearly saying that when she says it's not to be for everyone and to represent everyone.
We mentioned, obviously, reproductive rights. Give an idea, because for example, if Roe v. Wade were to be overturned, it then goes to every state. Has now taken a look at how many of the 50 states you believe that a woman's right to choose would be jeopardized in?
Well, I think we do look at it because we have chapters in every state. And what we look at is when we are also electing and representing and endorsing candidates, we look at the candidates' positions and we look at how they represent our core issues. And one of our core issues is reproductive justice. And we also look at economic justice and LGBTQIA issues. And so we look at candidates who are going to represent all of our core issues. And we look at how they look at on issues like abortion bans and reproductive care and abortion and contraceptive issues. And so we are looking at candidates who are going to do that. And so when we look at that in the states, we're looking at candidates who reflect those things. And we can see clearly that a lot of states are starting to side and take issues and have bans that are really not representative of women's rights and bodily autonomy. So it's becoming clearer and clearer as we see many states are starting to go back and starting to demonstrate laws that are repealing Roe versus Wade and a woman's right to choose.
We talked about Roe. We talked obviously about the Affordable Care Act. Give a few other cases impacting women in particular, which obviously your organization identifies, that you think people aren't realizing. I saw, for example, contraception, that might be challenged. Give a few other examples, Christian, that people may not realize could actually hang in the balance of a 6-3 court.
So I think what people really need to understand is the two biggest things I think look at is also how Medicaid expansion and contraception is being impacted, and how without Medicare expansion and ACA coverage, how that really can impact contraception coverage. Although people can say, well, it's not directly impacting like restrictions in contraception. When your insurance won't cover it, when you can't get Medicaid to cover it, when you can't get ACA, Affordable Care Act to cover those things, and contraception covers everyone. Like most people use contraception in some form or level. So when we're looking at how that won't be covered, and then people are having to pay for that out of pocket, it makes tremendous effects on people's ability to cover and take family planning into consideration. And so I want people to really think about how that impacts family planning, how that impacts your ability to make choices. It makes such tremendous impacts on your everyday life. And we want to always assume that it's just a woman. We think of reproductive justice, we think of just women, but it's impacting marginalized communities, it's impacting immigrant communities, it's impacting elderly communities, impacting a lot of different communities that we don't think about. And so it's really comes deeply to home. And we have to look at now COVID too. We have to look how COVID's generally impacting people. People are losing jobs. People are not able to care for themselves in basic ways. Multiple people are dying. ACA is being repealed and they're trying to push back and not cover ACA, Affordable Care Act. And we already have 215,000 people who have died due to COVID. And here we are going to then try to push back and appeal ACA in a time when we have 215,000 people in America who have died from this deadly disease. This is not the time to appoint and put somebody in the SCOTUS and into the Supreme Court who we know does not believe in supporting the American people in a time of a crisis, a pandemic, when people are dying every day. People are not surviving. We want to take away their health care. And we want to pull back more health decisions for them that support them. So we really have to look at the seriousness of this. We have to look at pulling back healthcare. We have to look at how our basic protections of our body, our decision to protect ourselves, like our reproductive care, our healthcare, our bodies, our families' bodies are being taken away from us by simply nominating somebody who's not for the American people, but it's more for profitizing the people who are rich and the benefit of government and profit. That's really what we're coming down to.
You know, politically, Christian, the Democrats are in a bit of a box because they see the polls and they see, at least nationally and in particularly some of the battleground states, they've got some comfortable margins. Conversely, at the same time, the votes are there, barring some huge surprise that Justice Barrett will be confirmed. To that end, some say don't push the envelope, don't go too hard after the justice on Roe, because it could be viewed as being anti-Catholic or against her religious persuasion. Do you understand the political optics of this? And do you understand if Democrats focus instead, let's say, on health care and they don't get into the issues of choice?
Well, this is not about choice. I think that it's really easy for individuals to want to make this about a religious decision. It's really easy to try to push that envelope to make it about choice versus anti-choice. But this is about the basic right for human dignity, the basic right for individual human rights, right? We have to think about, regardless of your belief system, regardless of your political affiliation, there's a basic dignity for people to be able to make a choice to live, for people to make a choice to be able to take care of their families. And this is what we're talking about here. We're talking about the basic tenet of being American and our civil rights. And so we have to move away from trying to make this about a partisan issue. This has to be about the basics of survival in America and taking care of our needs and civil rights. And we have to really focus on what that means and what that looks like. We have to have a balanced court. Our court is not balanced right now. And we cannot have a court that's imbalanced, because that's how it has been for many, many years. If you look at the court in the Democrats, you look at it, it's just not balanced, and it has not been balanced. And how can we have a fair court when it has been overly weighed by courts have not been favored exclusively for American people? We have to put the power back in the American people's hands, where they feel like they are being represented. And I think that's what we have to look at. And we have to look at, how do we do this and move it away from making this about religion or making this about Democrats or Republicans, but about the American people.
Christian Nunes, I appreciate a few minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.